This morning is just too beautiful to not share on video as well. Look at that sky. Obviously look at Hoytzer and Jubbers because they're the most beautiful things here. Having their breakfast. Rather chilly morning. But look at the view from the front of the house today. How stunning is that? All the beasties down in the field. They're going to be getting fresh haylage down there today. As soon as Isaac's been and had a look at my tractor and got it started. But they had enough for yesterday and last night, so that's good. It's just so peaceful. While I wait for my tractor to be fixed, I thought I'd feed all the boys and girls earlier than usual in the field, as they've only got the dregs of their other haylage left, so they've all got nice warm feeds to fill their little cold tummies this morning, so they're going to be very happy when I take them down. Look at all those beautiful carrots. So thank you to everyone who's donated carrots. I've got another feed order I need to put in today to keep the stocks up. I do love my little tractor, but she's not chosen the best week to decide that she doesn't want to play ball. I'm still not quite sure what time she's going to get fixed today. There's little Obi. So because all the boys and girls will have finished off the haylage they've got down in the field, I've done their breakfast early, so they've got their lovely feeds here, and I'm having to take some haylage down in hay nets for them. So we rely so heavily on the machinery as well, and as you can see, the quad is a bit battered, the tractor's a bit battered, but they generally do their jobs very well, apart from this week. So I'm going to go and get this all down to them, and hopefully the tractor will be fixed by later this morning and I can get some nice big bales of haylage down to them. Mike is the first one over to spot the little piles of haylage that I've put out for them for now. All the others, they're still tucking into their breakfast. But it's quite hard going for them at the moment because this is quite badly poached the front of the field. They do have to pick their way through it. You know, in an ideal world, as I've said before, this would all be levelled out and nice concrete that they can stand on to eat their haylage. But we don't live in an ideal world. Well, we do, because I live here and it's beautiful and I'm very lucky. So even though I whinge about some things that could be improved, it all takes time. But I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. Mike, are you going to tuck into all of that before they come and discover it as well? Your legs have stayed relatively clean overnight. Sorry, all you can see is my shadow on her there. Hello, gorgeous. So yeah, she found some bobby bits. Her plaiter's come out of her tail that was in there, but at least it's not as tangled and grubby as it was yesterday. Hey, my canoe. Beautiful day. to save too many arguments between these over the haylage I've put out, and because some of them were staying down at the front here where it's really not nice and they were struggling to walk around, what I've done is I've left the ones up there with the haylage, but I've actually moved 6 of them into the orchard that's not poached, because I don't use it in the winter generally, so at least they've got some nice ground to walk on in here, and they've got a little bit of grass. So I've got Nika, Iceman, Doutzen, Yodel, Renska and Hidda in here. Straight away they've got their heads down and they're eating, but that saves them arguing over the haylage and potentially injuring themselves on the ground, which obviously we don't want. So they'll stay in here just probably until the ground thaws a little bit. I might even move them up into Muddy Pool, which is the next field, which, although that gets very wet in the winter because it's frozen and we've not used it, it's not poached, so they'd be okay to go in there for a little while. Always juggling. Happy days. Isaac has got my lovely little Massey tractor running. The bad news is that if I turn it off, it might not start again. So it turns out it needs a new starter motor. There's always something. So my next mission is to get as many bales of haylage out into the field and up to the barn as I can, empty the muck trailer before I have to turn it off, because it might not get fixed till Saturday. So I need to make sure that they've all got enough haylage out there and that our trailer is emptied and we've got haylage up here. That's how I'm going to be spending my afternoon now. But at least she's running. The next part of my juggling for the day has been opening up this long field again. Some of you may remember that on New Year's Eve, Veebs ended up breaking through the wall over here and into the other field, but luckily Neil, our wonderful waller, has been in and repaired it, so I've been able to let the rest of these, Xiaokia, Micah, Mabel and Teddy Bear, come through into this field. And what I've done, and this isn't ideal at all, is I've just popped a bale of haylage here, so it's not got a ring feed around it, but the reason I've done this is because the ground is so hard and poached where they've been eating, where the other 2 bales were, that I wanted them to be able to stand on decent ground for a little bit until it thaws. So it means that there's going to be quite a lot of wastage of this bale because it'll all fall away and they'll end up treading on it, but at least they're going to be standing on much nicer ground, and I'll be able to move the other ring feeders to a better place. But they're quite happy now purely because they've got a little bit of grass in here for now, and then they can tuck into that haylage because there's not a lot in the grass right now. So my tractor's still running over there, so I'm going to go and move the other ring feeders. The reason I'm not moving one of the ring feeders in here is because when it thaws out, this bit of ground will get very, very boggy as well, and it's quite hard to get bales into this field when it's really boggy. That's the first ring feeder moved and haylage put in. So I've moved these from the front part of the field where the ground is really bad, and I've put them at the top of the field, which I've done in previous years. I prefer not to have the haylage down this end of the field because obviously every time I drive the tractor backwards and forwards, I'm making big tyre tracks, usually along this hedge line over here. And of course that reduces the amount of grazing land out here and land that can be used for making haylage once the horses come out of here in the spring. But while the ground's frozen, they can have the haylage at this top end, and I'll worry about moving them when the time comes. But at least they're going to be, as I've said before, on much better ground around here for a few days whilst it's frozen. Sometimes hard to get these things across in a video, and I don't know whether I explain it very well, but this is where the feeders were, the two feeders that we had out here, and you can see the big tyre tracks that I have to make when it's wet to come out here. And all this ground where you've got the big holes here, because it's frozen, it's really not nice for the horses to walk on this and run the risk of getting injured through twisting joints. So this is where I would love to have the concrete, or even like a nice covered barn, so that in the winters they can still be out, because it is the healthiest place for them to be. Obviously it's more of a risk when it's frozen and it's pitted like this, but I hope that sort of gets across the challenges that we have at this time of year with the mud, which, you know, a lot of horse people have, but I do still want to keep the horses outside. Days like this and where it's bad, yes, it would be great if we had 15 stables that we could pop them in, but ultimately the best thing for them is to be moving around and stretching their legs as much as they can. They're far healthier that way. I've got my tractor up there with the second bale of haylage that I'm taking up to the top end of this field. I don't usually drive it up on the top part there because Obviously when it's wet, that would be making extra tyre marks and damaging more of the ground. Over here, I don't know whether you can see on the video, you can see the tyre tracks from where in previous years I have put the haylage at the top of the field, and I tend to drive along this side part of the field, so it's created deep craters here, which obviously that part can't be cut for haylage in the summer because the grass doesn't grow on it properly because it's damaged. So what happens really after this is in the spring I need to be out here with harrows to level all this ground off, roll it to make it flat, and in an ideal world again I'd reseed it all, but I've not done that for a couple of years, which means that our crop of haylage reduces every year just because where the ground gets damaged the grass doesn't grow as well. Anyway, for anyone who's interested, I thought I'd just give that little bit of info. One in. What I think I didn't mention earlier is the reason I use this bit of ground at the top of the field is because there's big rocky outcrops here. So we've got this big lump here of rock round in this area, in the top right of the field, and over where the other bale is, that's quite rocky. So these are the parts of the field that never get mowed anyway. So even if it gets poached and damaged, I'm not cutting into their grazing ground or the ground that's going to be used for making haylage. And it also means, because it's a rocky part, that there's not as much soil here, so it doesn't go quite as deep when it gets wet and boggy. But as I mentioned before, the biggest drawback of having the bales down this end of the field are these tracks that get made when I'm bringing bales down here when it's wet and muddy, and these do end up getting quite deep, and it can be a little bit scary sometimes driving the tractor along them. That might be something to do with the fact that my tractor hasn't got very good wheels on it, but she's very good, still going at the moment. So we've got a few more jobs to do with her before I can put her to bed for the night. Her starter motor is being ordered today. Best case, she's going to be fixed at the weekend, but it might be early next week when it gets in and they can come and do the work. But even when you're out here doing stuff like this, you just look around and just always think how beautiful it is, how lucky I am. There you can see the 4 that are in the long field over there. They're still on the grass at the moment, which is good. But having moved the others to the orchard this morning and these into the long field, it's made it a lot easier doing the work in here today without having them running around the tractor and making it difficult to get in and out of the gateway. Another interesting fact for anyone who wonders what goes on with all the black wrap from around our haylage bales, it all goes away in these big green bins for recycling. I think that's everything done. I've got 4 bales of haylage up here, 3 down into the fields, the muck trailer's been emptied, ring feeders have been moved, and now my tractor's back up at the yard, and I'm going to turn it off and see if it will restart. I'm just hoping I've got everything done. Let's see, let's give it a go. Isaac said to me it might restart if I'm lucky. No. No, so that's it. That's what happens. Oh, it tried. But no, we just need our new starter motor now, and then hopefully normal service will be resumed. As you know, I was going to leave these beauties out here for a couple of days while it was frozen, but because I've been able to get 3 bales of haylage into new places out in the other field. You've probably ripped your rug there, Nika, haven't you? I'm going to move them back across. Oh, Hida, don't pull faces at ice. You'll mean. I'm going to move them back across, so it does mean that they've got to go over the rough bit of ground to start with. But I'm going to get them back out with the other 4. Hello, Ren Ren. Have you enjoyed it in here for the day? I'm sure you have. I'm going to move them back across, and then at least they can go up into the field and not have to stand at this front part over here that's so badly pitted. I've brought them all back in, and clearly they don't believe me when I talk. down there for them all. Yolanda, Nika and Renska off because they were spotted the others in the long field. So I'm just going to let Hida go. Hold on, Hida. Hold on, Hida. Let me let you go. So they're all probably just going to go into the long field for now. But as you saw, they've got a bale of haylage out there. And then 2 bales down the bottom of the field here. Much better ground in that field. And that's the thing, when they've not been able to have a buck and a kick and a run for a bit, they need to do it, not because they're being naughty or silly, but just because they need to do it for their own bodies to stretch and loosen themselves off. That's what I think sometimes some people don't understand with horses that haven't done anything for a while. They think they're being naughty and that they go to work them, but every horse needs to have that stretch and run around because they know better than us how to look after their own bodies.